Hello, this is Dr. Eric Bricker, and thank you for watching A Healthcare Z. Today's topic is, how does medical debt impact your credit score? Now, this is a super important and boring topic. Like many things in healthcare, important and boring. Okay, so you get a bill from a doctor or hospital, physical therapist, you name it, right? So you get a bill from the provider. Like, you don't pay it for whatever reason. Maybe it's because you think it's wrong, right? Then eventually it will be sent to a collections agency. And then you might get a call from a collections agency. You get letters. They kind of look like law firms or whatever. And they're like, you need to pay this bill. Okay, and then when that debt is then sent to the collections agency, it's then reported to a credit bureau, and then that credit bureau takes all the information about your paying or not paying various bills, and then they will send that over to a credit scoring company that then gives you that actual credit score, like that score of 550 or 650 or 750 that you're familiar with. Okay, now, here's the problem with medical debt and credit scores. It's because 80% of medical bills are wrong. So the amount of the debt is wrong. Do you even owe any debt? The fact that you even owe any debt would be wrong. Like, listen, I'm not against companies going after people with unpaid bills. I mean, if you bought something, you need to pay for it, right? If you bought a car, you need to pay for your car. You need to make your car payments, right? I don't think anybody in America is going to argue with that. But if the bill is totally wrong, let's say they charged you $100,000 for a $30,000 car. Well, it's like, do you really have $100,000 of debt, or is it only $30,000 of debt? Okay, so if the debt is totally wrong, then it impacting your credit score should be in some way corrected, right? And so why is the medical bill wrong? Well, it could be because the discount from the insurance company was never applied by the doctor or hospital. It might be because the insurance company denied payment incorrectly and the doctor or hospital is going after you, but it's like, no. I don't owe this bill. The insurance company owes this bill. Or maybe it's just that your benefits and what's called the accumulators weren't applied correctly. So the insurance company's like, oh, you owe a whole bunch of money when in fact you only owe a copay. So for example, you could have a hospital bill you for a $5,000 ER visit, and that could be pretty minor. That could only be a handful of stitches. And then they'll generate a bill for $5,000 for a handful of stitches. And then the insurance company applies their discount to it, and maybe it's only a $2,000 bill, but then by the time your benefits are applied, it's only a $200 copay. Well, shoot, if the insurance company denies the ER visit, and if the hospital ends up not applying the insurance discount, then when you owe $200, in actuality, they might generate $5,000 of medical debt for you. You have $4,800 of incorrectly generated medical debt. It's a huge problem. Okay, so as a result of this is not a new problem. It's been going on for a long time. So the Fair and Accurate Credit Transaction Act of 2003, okay, this is 24, this is 21 years ago. They said that Congress passed this law and said that medical debt cannot be applied to your credit score. So why in the world are we talking about this? This was passed 21 years ago. Well, of course, immediately the Bush administration made an exception specifically for medical debt, which said that medical debt actually can be applied to your credit score. So you can't take into account if you've got cancer or not cancer as to whether or not you can get a car loan or a home loan. They can't be oh, well, you've got cancer, you won't be able to pay off your car loan, right? So you can't do that. But the Bush administration said, well, you can take into account medical debt when generating somebody's credit score. And they did some calculations on it, and they found that if you had a credit score of 680, that your medical debt would probably decrease your credit score by about 50 points. And if you had a credit score of 780, then your medical debt would probably decrease your score by 110 points. So it was of significant consequence. Now, so then this goes on, okay? During both the Bush administration, the Obama administration, the Trump administration, and the beginning of the Biden administration. So both Republicans and Democrats have overseen this, okay? Obama could have done something about it, and he didn't. Trump could have done something about it, and he didn't, okay? So this is a political season, but I just want to say that when it comes to this, both parties have kind of left consumers out to dry. Okay, so finally, in 2022, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau which is part of the federal government, started putting pressure on the credit bureaus. And there's three of them. The three credit bureaus are TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. And because of that pressure, because of all of this incorrect medical debt, then the credit bureaus were like, okay, if you actually paid because before, if you paid your medical debt off, it would still show up on your credit report that, oh, well, you had this debt that you hadn't paid, and even though you paid it off, it still dinged you. So they said, okay, we won't do that anymore. So if you actually paid your debt off, it doesn't ding you anymore. And then they went even further in 2023, and they said, okay, well, if you have medical debt of less than $500, then that won't ding your credit score either. Okay, so that's 14% of Americans had medical debt, and when they changed this rule to less than $500 of medical debt and wouldn't count against you, then only 5% of Americans now had medical debt on their credit report. Okay, so it decreased by 11 percentage points. So it's pretty big progress. And then in terms of dollar value, it went from $88 billion of reported medical debt, again, many of which was incorrect, okay, to then it cut it in half down to $44 billion of medical debt was still held by those 5% of Americans. Again, it could still be wrong. It just happened to be more than $500. Okay, so then that takes us to the scoring, right? Because you have the TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian were like, okay, well, we're not even gonna collect this stuff and report this stuff anymore. But then the next step is to be like, okay, the scoring, how does it affect the scoring? Because TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian, they don't actually do the scoring. There's two companies that do the scoring in America, right? Only in America would you only have two options for this. They're VantageScore and FICO, okay? Now, VantageScore in 2023, they actually changed their scoring. So for their most up-to-date scoring versions, which are version 3.0 and 4.0, guess what? VantageScore voluntarily said medical debt, even in excess of $500, is not going to impact your VantageScore credit score. And VantageScore and FICO use the same point system. It's like 300 to 850, okay? Now, here's the problem. FICO, which is the Fair Isaac Corporation, which is a publicly traded organization. You can buy FICO stock if you want, which, oh, by the way, it's been going through the roof. Wonder why. And FICO is used by 90% of lenders. So FICO is the 8,000-pound gorilla in the credit score space. I mean, VantageScore is super, super small compared to the impact of FICO. FICO's been around since the 1950s. It's been around for forever. Okay, so FICO is still using medical debt in excess of $500, of which 80% is wrong, to calculate your credit score. So finally, just now that we're in election season, I'm not trying to be cynical here, but it just happens to be election season. Now, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and the federal government just happens to be saying, okay, well, now there's no exceptions. So now your medical debt, no matter what, cannot be on your credit score. That is a proposed change. That change has not gone to an effect. The Consumer Financial Protection Board is just proposing that change. And they just proposed that change as of June of 2024, and it's open to comment until August of 2024, and they have not set a date as to when they would actually put this into effect. So who knows? We don't know. It's just a proposal. Now, this is specifically when it comes to your credit scores. Okay, let's just go through the numbers on them, right? So an 800 to 850 is considered excellent. A 740 to 799 is considered very good. A 670 to 739 is considered good. A 580 to 699 is considered fair. And less than 580, all the way down to 300, is considered poor. And it impacts your ability to get a loan, and then it impacts what your interest rate will be on that loan. So when it comes to medical debt, does it impact your credit score? The short answer is yes. And here is the history of how that came to be. And thank you for watching A Healthcare Z.